So great to be with you. Welcome back, Arrington. Welcome back, Rachel. Welcome back, Momo, our awesome panelists. Today's discussion is going to be a little bit different, whereas we're not going to start with a challenge that most of the panelists experienced. Then in episode 2, go through the kabbalistic perspective of that challenge. And then in episode 3, figuring out some tools to get through it. We're literally going to workshop and go through a journey together that will help us to move out of certain reactive tendencies that we have into a whole new version of ourselves, which is much more light, much more fulfilling, much more enjoyable. So to do that, I'm going to ask all of you guys to pick up a pen and paper. Hopefully you have a pen and paper at home. If not, just pause this episode for a second. I saw Momo has a pen, and I know Rachel and Arrington already do have pens and paper with them. So we're going to do a workshop together that's going to help us. It's going to support us in our spiritual evolution and allow us to change things in our life, which we want to shift out of. So I'm going to start with just some questions. And this is for you guys. Think of a moment in a recent situation where you were being blamed for something that you didn't do, or a moment where you took credit, someone else took credit for something that was your work or something that you put a lot of effort into. Think of a moment that you were lied to. Think of a moment where someone hurt or betrayed you. Think of a moment when you feel like you were being mistreated by something wasn't fair. You know, the teacher called you out on something and it wasn't you that said that thing. It was the person behind you, but you got yelled at it. Think about any moment, essentially, in which you got reactive. Because from a kabbalistic perspective, we are presented with these situations to allow our best self to be revealed. And when we get reactive, when we shut down, when we become depressed, when we start thinking negative thoughts about ourselves, we're definitely not becoming the best self. So there's one thing that we know for sure. And tell me if I'm wrong, Momo, Rachel, or Arrington. We all have things that do challenge us and do seem or appear not fair. They trigger us. Yes?
100%. I got lost in one right now.
What you what?
I just got lost in one right now, like a memory from 7th grade that just came out of nowhere.
Okay, hold it for 1 second. And then as a result of those situations, we are triggered in some way and we get reactive. Something happens as a result of those situations. So we're going to go with Momo first. But what I want you all to do is to think of that situation and pause for a moment. If you can, just pause this video and write for yourself, what do you do when things don't go your way? What do you do when you get lied to? What do you do when you don't feel like you're trusted or respected? What do you do when you feel like you're not heard? That's step 1. Write down the reactive behavior. So take a moment to pause. And we're going to go through this with Momo, Rachel, and Arrington so we get a better understanding of how to do this on our own. So Momo, take us through that situation that you just got lost in.
So back in 7th grade, give or take, we used to have, so I went to, like a private Jewish middle school, and we used to have breakfast at school. And so one day, this kid, he's just being annoying. He's literally just tossing pieces of cereal at me, like sitting right across from me, tossing pieces of cereal at me. And I keep telling him, like, hey, man, stop. Bro, stop. That's not cool. Stop. And he just keeps going. I don't know what was wrong with him that day. And slowly, like, I'm a patient guy, but I was just losing it. And so eventually, by the way, like 5 feet from us is like one of the teachers, a rabbi, right? And he's watching this go down. I know he's watching this go down because I look at him. And I'm like this, like, hello, sir. He doesn't do anything. What happens?
Wow.
I'm like, okay, he's not going to help me. I got to do this myself. I literally just take all the cereal this guy's been throwing at me, collect it, and just chuck it back at him. Immediately, this teacher swoops down on me. Come with me. We're going to the principal's office. You can't waste food like that. Stop throwing food in the... I was like, what? You saw everything that went on right here and just decided as soon as I played his game, I lost. Everybody, like, what? And yeah, I went to the principal's office, explained the situation, and said that, like, that teacher just has it out for me. And yeah, I got out of it, but it sucked.
You got out of it. So
Uh,
I see there's two situations which we can go through these few steps to learn from and grow. Situation number one, when you're getting things thrown at, or situation number two, like when somebody throws something at you, of course it's going to make you reactive. Or situation number two, where the authority figure in the room saw what was happening, didn't say anything until you did something. Which one would you say made you more reactive?
for sure the authority figure thing. Like, yeah, this kid was pissing me off, but when like the guy who's supposed to be all fair and unbiased decides to pick me, I lost it. That made me like a million times angrier than the kid throwing cereal.
Okay, so let's go. Now we're going to go with step one, just like we asked everybody to pause from home and to go through step one. What is your reactive behavior when you feel like an authority figure or someone treated you unfairly? What happens? What do you
Immediately I
do?
want to call them out on it. Tell them that they're a terrible person and they should rethink their entire life. Like literally just destroy them verbally. That's my go-to move. And I would have done it, but as a seventh grader, I didn't have all the, knowledge that I have now. Like now I could have torn that person apart. As a seventh grader, I was too intimidated.
When you say
Um,
knowledge, you mean the wisdom of Kabbalah to help you be less
Absolutely
reactive, or
not. I
knowledge?
mean, the knowledge of an adult to make this man question his life choices.
Okay, so besides because you didn't verbally attack him, what did you do in that moment when you felt reactive?
Just got really heated. I don't know. I took it out later on the principal. I just like lost my mind and went, "This is unfair. He hates me because I have different beliefs than him. He doesn't like me. He's playing favorites." Like this whole thing. I went on an entire rant, and basically just like screamed at the principal.
Okay, so
Who
step
took it
one, we would
well?
say.
Don't get me wrong. Great principal. He took it really well and understood. But yeah.
So step one is, before we even start our steps in our journey right now to figure out how to create those changes and create the life that we really want, we're going to start by understanding what's the situation. The situation is there's an authority figure that should have done things differently. Now, what do? My normal reaction would be to yell back, to tell this person with my words, because I am very good with my words and talk out. But I didn't. Instead, I blamed. I said, oh my God, he was supposed to be doing this. He was supposed to be doing this. He was supposed to be doing this. And that's also another reactive behavior, right? Blaming somebody immediately for the situation that takes place. So that's good. Does anybody else, Rachel, Arrington, before we go through all the steps, I want to just give another person an opportunity to share a situation that recently or in high school, in your teenage years, made you reactive.
Yeah, sure. So I can go. So when I was a teenager, and maybe even before, probably actually for a long time, I was a big fighter. Like whenever someone made me reactive, I had no problem smacking them across the face, punching them, or getting in a fight. No matter if it was one person, two people, three people, both if they were annoying me or if they were disrespectful to me or took away my pride or whatever it was, that was usually my that was usually a trigger for me to try to punch them into silence or to stop them from speaking these things about me.
Okay. Do you have a
right.
situation in which that you remember that you punched somebody into silence?
Yeah. So a lot of times, so I was, so in my high school, I was one of the few only like minorities there, right? I'm Black, Chinese, Filipino. So a lot of times people would, use that as an excuse to either put me down or try to put me down or make fun of me. I remember my first week of school when it was Arrington, the first day of school, they tried to change my name to Antoine. Just kids try to call me Antoine. And I'm like,
Wow.
no, right? And then another time, so I was trying to play basketball. I was injured, and someone said, why should this Black guy get to play, but I don't? And I was just like, what? Like didn't even get to play. I'm injured. And some of them were like so shocking where I couldn't even like muster the courage to like fight them. But a lot of the times for the smaller stuff, I would just try to like make a quick move, and honestly, sometimes, and the problem was that it worked, right? Because after I did fight, right, or like did something, that they wouldn't say anything like that again, and so they
Right.
did better. So that on the short term, like that was definitely a good thing.
It's interesting that you said it was a. It's interesting that you said that it was a problem that it worked, right? Because
Yeah.
it's So
obviously not
situations
the
like,
right answer, but
right, right.
provided good results.
And that I think is the big, this is what we're looking at right now, is to understand that being reactive will always make us feel powerful in the moment, right? So if mom was gonna take that person's career away through verbally abusing him for the fact that he was unjust towards, the kid that was throwing stuff at him, or you're gonna shut somebody up with physical silence, or let's just say any of our viewers, they shut down and they go home and they say, like, nobody loves me. Like, it gives you something, it gives you an edge, it gives you some power, some temporary energy when your parents yell at you and you yell back, and you have to like let go of your anger and you have to show them that you believe what you believe. There's always that temporary rush, right? And I think that that's what we're all here to learn from. Do we want to keep making that trade? Do we want the trade for the temporary rush in order for us to feel good in the moment, or realizing after 30 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, 3 years go by, and then Arrington's known as the person that is physical and abusive, or thinks that fighting his way through things is the way to solve problems. We realize, wow, that was a mistake. So what we're trying to do here is to learn how that short trade, where I am reactive, it feels good for a moment because something triggered me, and most of the time I am justified to do that. I want to stop making that trade. I want to stop, shutting down in the ways that I do, or reacting in the ways that I do. And we'll see how situations can really play out differently. Because as you see, each one of us is different. Momo would never raise a fist. I just know Momo, but Arrington would. I don't know about Rachel. We're going to find out in a moment what her reaction.
By the way, I would not have expected that coming out of Arrington. He is like the calmest guy I know. In a basketball game, okay, yeah, he gets competitive, but a fight? No.
No. Also.
I've been many.
Rachel, do you have something for us?
Of course. My biggest, I have so many, I wrote down a few, but my biggest one I would say is similar to Arrington, but a bit different. When I get reactive, I get very angry and frustrated, and I won't punch people physically, but I'll take that in, I'll get into a bad mood, and then I'll let that bad mood out on the people closest to me. So whether that's my family or my friends or something like that. And you asked us what triggered us, or no?
I mean, was there a situation that you can remember either in back then or now that you can remember that happened? You get angry, and by the way, you're different. You don't let it out. You hold it in, and then it comes out on people around you. So it's powerful that you could see that.
For sure. There's so many scenarios. The trigger of what it happens is that it's when I don't get what I want, right? I'm like a control freak. I want something specific. When that doesn't work out, only, in the beginning, it always works out, I think, for the best. But in the beginning, it's so frustrating. It's so angry. Recently, there's so many. I'm sure everybody can relate. But like recently, I was so excited. Me and my roommate are looking for apartments or apartment hunting. And we're like, this apartment was like basically ours. The guy was like, yeah, you got approved. I was getting so excited. I'm already thinking about how to decorate and getting the move-in truck and all these things. And then we end up calling the guy, and it was just bad. It was just bad vibes. Like, he was not feeling us. We weren't feeling him. It just didn't work out. And I remember calling my roommate after the call being like, oh my God, what happened? I was so frustrated. Honestly, I didn't take it out on anybody. I was
Thank
a bit
God.
calm, but it was very frustrating. And I'm sure everybody could relate to just something you're excited about doesn't work out. Like, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel frustrated. Either you're going to fight someone and punch someone about it, or you're just going to verbally attack someone.
Destroy them. That's the
I would
preferred.
say usually it only took one hit. It only took one strike. And that worked out.
Exactly.
But I think I'm gonna speak just for a couple of the other non-confrontational people in the world, and some of the viewers that are with us. That for me personally, when someone does something that's wrong to me, I just shut down, and I don't allow them to experience my smile, my jokes, basically not even my words. I just become very silent. And I essentially punish them through silence. And I am confrontational, especially in competitive moments, but for me, I could say the part of the biggest reactive side of mine, and I show this to the people that I really care about, is when you're bothering me, you're going to get the cold shoulder. And I think that that's also something that many people can relate with, right? Reactivity, not by expressing, reactivity by suppressing or by shutting down. So hopefully by now, I only guided you guys at home through step one, but through Rachel and Momo's and Arrington's stories, we can understand step two. So go to our reactive behavior. What is it? What is our go-to when things don't go our way, when we blame, when we get criticized, or when things, we want them to flow a certain way and they don't? What do we do to compensate? What is the energy switch? So Arrington is like, sometimes get physical. Momo's use his words. Rachel is keep it in and then sometimes let it out on people that are closest to her. Boom, like put it in the closet, and then one of your family members open the closet and all of this stuff falls on it. And then for me, it's like a moment of suppression and saying like, no, you're not going to get my good. I'm going to shut down. So that's what makes us reactive. Step two of this workshop that we're all going to go through. And again, I'm going to ask you to pause after you get the instruction. Step two is to find out what triggers for you that reactive behavior. What triggers for you that reactive behavior, that need to speak up, that need to confront, that mode of shutting down? What triggers it? Is it, again, situations that are unjust? Is it a friend not inviting you to a certain place? Is it getting low grades when you expected yourself to get much higher grades? Is it you being hard on yourself and super judgmental? Is it when you look in the mirror? You look in the mirror and you're triggered. You're like, I'm not who I want. I'm not the size I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I want to. What triggers that reactive behavior? So take a moment to pause at home. Find out, I know my reactive behavior. I know what it is that I do when something bothers me and something doesn't go my way. What are those things that normally trigger that reality for us? So pause for a moment and welcome back from your pause. And we hope as we move through these last two steps, step 3 and step 4, we hope that you'll get the tools that you need to really change and create a new pathway for yourself where you don't need to use the same controlling, temporary fulfillment, reactive behaviors to get the desired outcome, but you can find other ways to do so. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is evolve and to become the best version of ourselves. And these situations are attracted to me, to my soul, because it's part of what my soul came to this world to do. So this is where things get a little bit tricky. You might know before you started watching this session today, you might know what your reactive situations are. You might know what triggers you. But now what I'm going to do, guys, for your situations is introduce step 3, which is, what does my opponent, right? That force that is challenging me to stay small, challenging me to not grow, challenging me to feel good in the moment. What is my opponent saying? What are some of the voices that go through my head as those triggers come into my life? Arrington, do you want to start? Maybe what were some of the things? Somebody triggered you, somebody said something to you. What goes on through your mind when you're triggered or when you're reactive?
I think the biggest thing is the disrespect. When the feeling of being disrespected or as being looked at as less than or not as an equal to another person. That's for me always probably the biggest trigger. And that's outside of every situation as well, or that becomes confrontational, or it's not necessarily I need to prove myself, but it's just a weird feeling when someone doesn't look at you the same or equal in any type of environment.
And so that situation,
Mm-hmm.
any situation that makes you feel less than will trigger that same reactive response.
Not the same exact response. Maybe
Okay.
Maybe sometimes thought of. But yeah, it's definitely the same response of confrontation.
Okay. So some of the voices of your opponent is, I feel less than. Some of the voices in your mind is this isn't fair. Like not everybody is treated in the same way as me. Okay. So those are some of the thoughts that go through your mind as those situations, take place. Momo, what about you? What are some of the voices that go on in your mind when that situation took place?
So I wrote them down. It's like they owe you respect. It's not fair. They should know better. They're looking down on you. Destroy them to show your superiority. It's very similar to Arrington in the sense that like if I feel I'm being cheated or disrespected or looked down on, I just instead of physically just hit them, I verbally hit them or I verbally just lash out.
Right. Okay. Good. And Rachel, what are some of the thoughts that go through your mind whenever you didn't get your situation? The situation didn't go the way you wanted it to.
Yeah. So when I don't get what I want or I'm not in control, and I realize that, all my thoughts are like, I wrote it down, so I'm looking at the paper. Like, life's not fair. Why did it happen? I'll maybe blame someone. Like, oh, if this person didn't do this, then it would have worked or whatever. Or like, again, like similar to my reactive behavior, like I'm so angry, like nobody talked to me, like don't, like kind of just blocking everything out, or like I should have gotten this, like what's wrong? More similar to Momo, like this isn't fair, like, just.
I think if we look at all of them, right? Arrington's, myself, when I get reactive and I shut down, right? And I don't show them the best version of myself. I just give them the cold shoulder. Clearly I'm doing it because I don't think it's fair. And I'm blaming the other person for creating that unfair environment. This situation is not just, and it was somebody else that did that, right? So whether it's Arrington's, Momo's, Rachel's, things like words like this is not fair, words like I'm not good enough, words like this is not just, words like blaming other people. Those are thoughts of the opponent. Those are thoughts that are going to keep you small, that are going to keep feeding you in the direction of the reactive behavior. And eventually you're gonna realize, like with bigger things, no, things aren't going our way, and then we have to act in a more reactive way to assert our dominance or control, and then we don't end up growing or evolving or transforming from it. So the opponent will always shift focus and make it not about you. When the creator is sending these situations, the light is sending you these situations for you to learn new ways to handle and new ways to deal and become the best version of yourself. And our number one go-to, and that's what the opponent is trying to do, is to keep us small, is it's not fair, it's blaming somebody else, it's pointing the finger, it's saying things won't be better, they will always be this way. And then we don't take any responsibility, we don't find our part in it. And then eventually we continue with the same behavior until we realize it's too painful to keep doing this, right? So let's say, for example, a child yells at their mom and yells at their mom and yells at their mom whenever they don't get what they want. And then eventually you're grounded for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you're grounded for 6 months. I remember once I did something bad, actually. I punched a hole through a wall and I got grounded for 6 months. And then that was the last time that I yelled back after I did something wrong. Because eventually we realize the reactive behavior, at one point it gets too big and it hurts and it eventually causes us pain. We see the direct response on how, when I'm continuing to be this way, it's not serving me. It doesn't help me anymore. And then and then only then, after we feel that pain, we change. So the goal of this workshop is to help us to change before that situation actually unfolds. And that brings us to step 4, where we now are going to learn a lot about ourselves. But I'm just going to give you a moment of pause, because you guys were probably listening to our examples. Just take a moment to pause the recording and think for yourself. Write them down on your paper. Step 3, what does my opponent, or what do the voices in my mind say to me when I'm reactive because something triggered me? And each one of us has our own voices. So it's really important to get to know our own. So pause this for a moment and join us back when you have a couple of thoughts that go through your mind on those voices that are limited. And so welcome back. And we're going to move now into step 4, where we really create for ourselves a deeper understanding and knowing of who we are and why we do things. And step 4 is asking ourselves, how does it serve me? And then how does it hurt me? because there's a trade-off, right? When Arrington, when you say, you're not going to say this to me again, I'm going to physically show you that what you did was wrong. There's a trade-off. You feel good. You feel superior in the moment. You definitely don't feel less than. Okay, I'm not going to give you all the, I'm not going to go through all your examples. I'm going to ask you guys how does it serve you and how does it hurt you? But each one of us with these situations, as we start to push things away, as we start to shut down, as we start to react, it serves us in some way, because the Kabbalists explain that humanity doesn't do anything that doesn't serve them. If it doesn't feel good, you won't do it. The only reason you'll get up from the couch when you're watching TV to go to the fridge is to get a cold drink, is because you believe that you will enjoy the TV more with that drink in your hand. So you're going to move through uncomfortability, or you're going to ask somebody to get it for you. But the only reason we do anything is because we believe it's going to bring us some sort of enjoyment. So that also applies to negative things that we do in life. So Arrington, Momo, Rachel, all the things, the reactive moments, the triggers, the voice of the opponent, in some way, those things serve us. And we are clear about that, but most of us are not clear on how it hurts us and what the trade-off is. So who wants to go first? When you're reactive, when you're doing your thing, how does it serve you? Rachel.
So I wrote it down. How does it serve me when I get angry and take it out on people? It serves me because it gives me energy, some feeling of control, which I actually didn't write down, I just thought of. A feeling of control and a feeling of feeling justified. You know, like I was wrong, so if I wrong someone else, it sounds messed up, but like I was wrong, so if I take that on someone else, then it's like it's justified in some way.
Wow.
And then also,
Wow, that's deep. So something happened to you that shouldn't have happened. So now you'll take it out on someone that you love that shouldn't get it.
Exactly. And
Wow.
then I'm also saying how it hurt me, right? How it hurts. How it hurts me is, it's kind of obvious, but when I take out my anger on the people, you know, around the people, my closest people around me, it affects those relationships, right? It affects them. It affects my relationships. It kind of distance us a bit. And then also, it takes me further. This is an interesting thought I had. It takes me further from the person I want to be. So my ideal self, my best self in my mind, is someone who's calm and patient and like doesn't have to always be in control, can kind of go with the flow and kind of take the roll with the punches, as they say. So, and so it takes me, so it hurts me because it's taking me farther away when I react like that.
That's beautiful. You're going to get extra credit because you wrote everything down. So you should, our viewers at home should take notes from Rachel, because she has a whole pen and paper going through step 1 and through step 4. So that's amazing, by the way. So what happens is you normally get into a state of looking to be in control. And when you're not, you get reactive. And then when you get reactive, you do everything that you can to get your control back.
Yeah.
Wow.
As if I'm the one.
And then it hurts you.
Yeah.
Say it again.
No, like if I'm the one, you know, who's not like causing the pain, it sounds bad, but if I'm the one, you know, doing it, then there's some sense of control there, because the situation that occurred was out of my control, out of my circumstance, you know, beyond me. So if it's like, even if I'm making a bad situation happen, I'm in control of it.
Wow.
That's deep.
Okay. look at, you're having a revelation on camera.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.
Momo, Arrington?
Go ahead, Momo.
You guys are too kind.
We're gentlemen now. Back in the day, we were wild. So how does it serve me? It makes me feel better than someone else for a very short period of time. Like I'm suddenly the top of the world. Watch, I can, you know, with a few words, I can ruin your life. And that just like, it makes me feel powerful. Just for a little bit, I feel like very, very powerful. And then it hurts me. It makes me doubt myself afterwards. Oh, sorry, that was a different one. It makes enemies. For sure, it makes enemies. This person will come back another day to get revenge. I feel guilty afterwards, because like a short time later, I'll be like, okay, that reaction did not equal the crime. That punishment did not equal the crime at the time. And also makes me believe that I'm a bad person, because once I go into that rabbit hole of, wow, I really overreacted, I shouldn't have done that, man, I'm a terrible person, why do I keep doing these things? Like I just this downward spiral of just, you know, self-hate and self-doubt, etc.
So I mean, that's a big trade-off, right?
Yeah,
That's
not a good
the
one.
momentary power, and that's why I think why you're a little bit different now. You've learned how to curb that reactive behavior, because that
Now it's
I mean,
just
I think
passive
all
aggression.
of us have that trade-off. What?
I said now it's just passive aggressive comments.
That's
Still
true.
makes you feel powerful, but doesn't create that many enemies.
I doubled the odds.
So you figure, yeah. So anyway, so the idea is that for that moment of power, when you're talking to someone and you know, your words are strong and sharp, you feel like you're on top of the world in that 5 minutes, and then you're like, you feel guilty after, which takes like probably a week or half a week to kind of get out of that guilt. You feel like a bad person, and then you're like, I'm not good. Also, just something else.
Taking
You have a
11
certain
years, by the
amount of-
way.
What?
Taking 11 years, still affecting me to this day. As we brought this up, I was like, wait a sec. I thought I got over this. Apparently not.
And that's why we said, you know, we said that these situations come to allow us to evolve and ultimately bring out our good, our perfect good. And I know, Momo, one of the things that you were gifted from by the Creator is your words. And you have two options. You can use those words to hurt, or you can use those words to build. Often, when you use them to hurt, they lose their power to build. So when someone feels the pain, you can no longer build that person. That gift the Creator gave you, which is like powerful words, whether you're writing a book or giving a speech, or, you know, joining, you know, hundreds of teens around the world. Those words aren't as powerful when you use them in the wrong way. So there's definitely is a big trade-off. And I think that's what we want to highlight before we jump into Arrington's, you know, how does it serve you? How does it hurt you? Is that the moment we get into those reactive modes, the moment we get triggered, the first feeling is, I feel some sort of lack. I'm missing something, and I'm trying to fill it as quick as possible. And so therefore, when someone's in desperation, we make bad trades. When someone loses a little bit of money, you do something quick because you're like, you need that money back. When we're in desperation, when we're in lack, we make a bad trade. So we're learning now what our trade-off is. This is what we feel. If maybe it's a moment, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, but what's the trade-off, and how does it hurt me in the long term, so I can think better as I get into reactive decisions in the future. So Arrington, let's go to yours.
So mine was obviously the fact that I was able to assert myself and end the conversation pretty quickly. But immediately after, I would always feel bad, because I would always have the thought, like, why did this person make me do that? Or why did I have to do that? Right? I felt so out of control because, like, I feel like they made me do that. Like, why did I have to go through that step in order to do that? Right? And so that feeling of being out of control, it made me so uncomfortable, made me feel bad about myself, about, you know, again, why I just had to do that or go that far. And yeah, ultimately just made me feel sad that I would do those things.
But it's interesting, in your how it serves you and how it hurts you, you still find, like, you still say, why did that person push me to this place?
Yeah, why did I have to get to this point? Yeah.
Oh, why did I have to get to this point? Or why did
I have to be pushed to this point?
That's the point, is that's powerful. But it's for you to realize that no one's pushing you to this point. You are a very strong character. You're a very strong character. The question is how you choose to reveal your strength, right?
Exactly.
It's big. It's big. So for you, the trade-off was, I feel, and I asserted my dominance, and the situation ended, right? It wasn't like, even I feel more powerful, like, at least it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It solves the problem. And for you, the way it hurt you is that did you always feel bad after, or did you feel like a moment of, they got what they deserve, and then you felt bad?
I always felt bad.
Bad immediately.
The last time I was tested on this was like at a basketball tournament. I remember this. I was actually with your brother. We're winning a few basketball games, and this person walks up to me. He goes, "Oh, and some of my teammates, he goes, "Oh, where did you pick this? Which part did you pick this guy up from?" And I'm like, that was the first time I was tested in a while, and I go, "What do you mean by that?" And he quickly realized how stupid that sounded. and like quickly just like walked away. And it was like one of the first times that I didn't like try to do that, and that it actually also still solved the problem. So once I figured that out too, that's also been very helpful.
You didn't respond. You asked the question.
I asked the question. Yeah, I just asked the question.
And you let someone else bask in their own
Stupidity.
misery.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
powerful, because you decided not to be reactive, and then immediately the
Exactly.
person realized how what he said was reactive.
Exactly.
And you got the desired outcome anyways without being physical.
Yeah, I mean 1/20, so everyone won.
And you won by 20. Yeah, everything worked out. Everything
Everything
worked out. And I think that's the point of what we're sharing with you here is these situations are presented to you, not because the universe is against you, not because the creator wants bad things to happen to you, not because you're not a good person. The creator wants to give you more. The light wants to give you more. Your soul wants to be more. And whenever your soul is settling for a small sense of temporary fulfillment, right? Oh, I'm going to feel in control in the moment, so I'm going to yell at someone. Or I'm going to show somebody that they should never hurt me again, so I'm going to give them the cold shoulder. And that's not the best. That's the smallest version of you. And there are so many bigger versions of you that are waiting to come. And the best versions of you are right behind these reactive situations, which is why we are going through them one by one, each person, each panelist, going deep into their own personal experiences to share their story. Hopefully that you are able to at home do the same, to write step one, what was it that made me reactive? Step two, what reactive behavior, step one, what reactive behavior do I want to change? Step two, what happens around me to trigger that reactive behavior? Step three, whenever those situations happen that trigger my reactivity, what are the voices that go in my mind? What are the bad stories? What are the voices, the opponent, that are trying to keep me small and trying to keep me feeling powerful in the moment? How do I look to make a quick trade after I feel that moment of lack and desperation? And step four, asking ourselves, how does it serve us? How does it hurt us? Am I willing to make that trade? Is the opponent going to keep me small, or I'm going to allow my true soul's purpose to become revealed? Because as you said, Arrington, it's not like you lost something because you didn't assert your reactivity. If anything, you gained. You didn't feel bad. You asked them a question. The person clearly saw that it was wrong. You ended up winning. And that's what happens when we end up winning against our reactive behavior. So before we sign off, I just want to take a moment, if you guys can bear with me and just think about those situations that got us reactive, and for you at home to do the same. We're going to try and rewrite those situations. So we're going to take a moment to close our eyes and just take a deep breath. And in our mind's eye, just to go back to that moment, where I was reactive, to go back to that moment when I was triggered. Now knowing what I know today, now knowing my trade-off, how would I handle this situation differently? Now that I know that I'm trading control for control, when I'm not in control, I'm going to try and grab control, but then I'm going to end up hurting the people I love. And now that I know about my trade-off, what are the other opportunities and pathways to resolve the situation without being reactive? That's all we need to ask ourselves. It's just a small pause. It's a deep breath, and saying to myself, how am I going to do something differently this time now that I have this information? So take a moment, be in a moment of peace. You didn't lose anything. That's part of the illusion. You look like you lost some. I lost control. Things aren't fair. They're not equal. They're not just. No, I am still full. I am equal to everyone. I do have my soul's light, even though it doesn't appear that way. Pause. Now that I'm full and I do not want to make that bad trade, what am I going to do now? What other ways are there to solve this situation? How can my soul become expressed without being reactive? It's that simple. You can open your eyes. And anytime that you need it, anytime that you feel a moment of reactivity, a moment where you're triggered, a moment when you're about to make the bad trade, literally just come back to this episode, fast forward to whatever minute this meditation was, and just do it for 2 minutes. It will give you that sense of peace. It will remind you of the trade-off, and hopefully will allow you to create the best version of yourself. And if you are thinking of the situation that you wrote down with your steps, you might right now have a different view or a different perspective of how to go through that situation differently, in a more powerful and controlled and proactive way. Anything to share, guys?
I think that was great.
I don't know. I just
Is it-
started going through alternative
Yeah.
solutions in my head for a while there. There's many. I just didn't take the time to look.
It's okay. You had more. You had other thoughts that came up that made you reactive, or you thought about different ways to solve the problem without being reactive.
A little of both. Like I started first going on a problem-solving journey in my head. Like, okay, I could have asked for another teacher, or I could have just sit there and took it for longer, or asked the kid more times, I guess. But like each time I'd be like, okay, that's kind of reactive behavior. That would lead to more. That's a proactive solution. That's like maybe I just got up and moved my seat, you know? That was never an option in my mind. Just
That's
I don't know
powerful.
why. It was just never an option in my mind. I could have literally just gotten up and moved. I don't know. I didn't even try it.
Move yourself away from the disturbance as opposed
Yeah.
to disturbing back.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, guys. So thank you all, Arrington, Rachel, Momo, for opening up about your stories and your situations, which I'm sure many of our viewers could relate with. And thank you all for participating at home, for taking out a piece of paper, for writing things down, for going through your own internal journey. And hopefully today provided you with fresh tools and fresh insight on how to really pave a new path in the road. Because once we're reactive, we're like, it becomes the easier way. We're used to it. That's how we solve problems. And as we, hear this class and do things differently, we're paving for ourselves a new road. Like Arrington, asking a question instead of physically, getting confrontational with the person is a very strong solution. And that can be his go-to now, as opposed to going into the reactive behavior. So hopefully all of us can start paving new roads for ourselves to not go into the situation of the opponent and staying small, and allowing our soul to ultimately become revealed and the best case scenario for the situation that presented itself. So thank you all, panelists. You guys rock. It's so much fun to do this with you every Sunday. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in a future episode.